Rockefeller. We have had another landing. Preparing for liftoff, my dudes. Go follow me up, add me up on all this shit. Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, any of this stuff at Spencer Turley. No spaces and no capital letters, okay? And by the way, if you DM me on Instagram, I will get you my Discord as well. So that's how you get in my Discord. Just DM me on Insta. I'll get you in there. You know what it is, boys. We out here on that there WW Ranch. And looks like a fine day, Jason Wygant. Yeah, back to you, fucking Ricky Bobby. Okay, so Florida National 2020. This is technically WW Ranch, right? So I feel like this track right here is actually going to be one of the most like different, for sure, like visually, but also kind of different graphically style tracks that we've had this whole time through this whole thing. Oh my gosh, even the on track is a lot different. Wow. That is cool. Oh my God, I'm used to a different layout. There's like 4 places right there that I was used to go in a completely different direction. But, ooh, look at that. It's a nice little jump. I really like how different this track is pre-made wise compared to the other ones that have came out this year so far. This is completely different than that last High Point track. This is totally different. This is like really smooth, really flat. This is actually really cool. This is a lot like I would think this track would really be like in real life, right? Especially when it's freshly prepped, obviously, but this is a lot more like that kind of style to me for sure. Wow, this is cool. Yeah, obviously you do get a little bit of that vibe of just kind of wide open everywhere on flat, but this place you got to get on the brakes just a little bit and get back on the gas. So obviously I've rode on multiple renditions of the WW Ranch on MX Simulator, you know, the wide open videos on the 2-strokes on that WW Ranch track. I've rode on it on even some of the milestone games when they had that on there, the WW Ranch on there. I've rode on it on, I don't know if they have one on Reflex or not, but point being is I've rode on many different renditions of this track, and so you kind of like over the years you kind of learn, even though I've never been to this track in real life, you just kind of learn how the track is just from riding on so many different versions of it. So this is not far off from that. This is cool. This is cool. I like this. Really like this. See, I was a little worried about that when they first announced the whole, you know, AMA replica DLC thing. I was really worried that all the tracks would have a very similar, like, pre-made rut design, very similar roughness design and all that. But it actually seems to be quite varied, especially with these tracks. Like, you know, the first Hangtown track came out this year, right? It was pretty rough, had a lot of choppy pre-made roughness, had some ruts on it, pre-made ruts and stuff, right? And then the Southwick came out. It actually turned out to be pretty smooth. I'm talking about the base version of it, right? It turned out to be pretty smooth. Then they come out with High Point came out after Southwick, and High Point was super rough, super pre-made ruts. And then here we are with the Florida National track, and this one's really smooth, really flat. But it's cool, though, because it feels like something different, you know? You want that variation. Like, it's just so critical to have variation in a motocross game when it comes to the track designs. I think that's one aspect that's kind of killed some of the milestone games quite a bit. Obviously, Supercross 3's got some pretty cool varied stuff, but just over the years of some of the milestone MXGP games and even some of their Supercross games, a lot of the track designs just feel so similar. Even though, yeah, they may have a different layout or a different kind of background and scenery and stuff, the on-tracks just feel so similar in those games to me. So, and that's part of what makes Reflex so amazing, is because all the different pre-made stock tracks of the game feel so different, right? Like, if all those stock Reflex tracks all kind of felt the same, that game wouldn't have been half as good as it ended up being at the end. So it's a very critical aspect to making motocross tracks, making them varied in different types of pre-made roughness. Some tracks a little more like prepped, smoother style. Some tracks rougher, some tracks ruddier. You know, you got to have all those different things. Man, I really like this track, though. Yeah, it can get a little bit like you're just on the gas, not as many like obstacles and stuff that you're hitting, but I I feel like you could really test around with some more top-end gearing on this track and get going to crazy speed, a lot faster than I'm going right here, you know. I feel like you could definitely start kind of toying around with that a little bit, without a doubt. But, yeah, even the terrain deformation, kind of cool. It's got an interesting little kind of loam, sandy type feeling to it, which is pretty much spot on, obviously. Any Florida track's going to kind of have that vibe a little bit, but you get the vibe like it's a local vibe track, you know, like it's a flat local vibe, like what WW Ranch is, you know. You really get that flat, like you're on a flat surface. There's not a lot of actual elevation on that on this track, and it, you know, they pretty much nailed that aspect of it here. You know, it's a full-blown flat track, right? So, but I mean, they did a decent job with giving it some pre-made roughness. It's not like 100% perfectly glass smooth either. You know, you don't want to make it 100% smooth, so I feel like they did a decent job with that. But this right here, definitely better to get on the brakes there. That way you can go ahead and jump that jump all the way. So that's a cool little area right there. Yeah, not a bad track. Now this, woo, I didn't even realize that inside rut was that big right there, but okay, then you come back over here. And yeah, the off-track's really cool because it's got that whole pond area with the trees on it. So definitely a lot of contrast as far as that goes. Really feels like you're on a different track than, like, you know, Hangtown, High Point, all that kind of stuff. Really feels like you're on something that you haven't been to before in this game. I just love the... Even with, like, all the custom tracks I've made on MX Simulator and some of the custom tracks I've seen on Reflex and stuff, man, there ain't nothing like a good water pond on a motocross track, dog. Like, I don't know what it is about that. There's two here. There's another big one over there to the right. But specifically that, you know, that real famous WW Ranch water pond that's right there on the start, that one's, like, almost super, like, aqua blue style. It really adds a cool look to it, really cool contrast, but... Yeah, I mean, isn't that like what standard motocross tracks are all about? It's like you got to have your woodland trees, and then you got some off-track stuff like fences and stuff like that, and then you got that good old water pond over there, right? It's like all of your standard what a motocross track needs. But and I think it's okay to have a motocross track that doesn't have elevation on it. Like, it's okay. I mean, I love motocross elevation, don't get me wrong, but I like the fact that there is one track in the series that doesn't have a lot of elevation, kind of changes it up a little bit. I like when they go to Southwick, where it's a totally different kind of track, total sand track. You know, I like when they prep the tracks differently, too. I like when sometimes they just dig it all the way to the bottom and get super ruts on a red bud, or sometimes they don't really dig it super hard, let it kind of dry out a little bit, let it get a little bit rougher, a little more choppy, a little more blue-grooved. I like that because it really tests the riders, you know. That's something I kind of like about this 2020 Supercross season as well, is with all these Salt Lake City rounds, of course, I would like it to go to different rounds, obviously, because it's kind of making it a little bit repetitive. But I like the fact that some of those Salt Lake City rounds are a little more dry, a little more like blue groovy practice track style dry. It's not just perfectly prepped like what we've been seeing in the past, you know, 5, 6, 7 years in Supercross, where every single track is just like the most perfectly prepped dirt, unless it's a mutter, obviously. But I like having some tracks where they get kind of dried out a little bit. I know that's kind of like a no-no, like you don't want the track dry, obviously, for dust reasons and stuff like that, but I just like that. I like how it kind of tests the riders in a different way. You know, all those riders, it's really put the laps in on those practice tracks on the dry days when the track's totally beat out, dried up, rough as absolute shit. I like them having a pro race like that every once in a while, but it's just my own personal opinion. So this track does seem to be kind of making like, whoa, SpongeBob, easy there, big hoss. Track does seem to be making like these very like individual ruts, right? Very, very individual. But like they're wide enough to get into too. It's kind of bizarre. That terrain deformation's something in this game, isn't it? Look at that. Like, holy crap. It's making literally like one trench that is just wide enough for your tire to go in, and that's it. I don't even know how it did that. It's like these AI are hitting the exact line every lap. I don't know how it did that in that corner, but like literally, I mean, they like lasered in that one line. That is the only place it was making a rut over there. That's kind of funny how it did that. But, yeah, these rollers could have been a little bit bigger, you know, or trying to make them a little bit more peaky to make them a little bit more skill gappy or something. It can definitely get a little bit not as much fun factor in some areas like that. I don't know why I'm missing that quad. But, yeah, like, you know, it can kind of miss a little bit of the fun factor element on this track when you talk about, like, obstacles, right? Obviously, it's a more high-speed style track and all that, so you get some fun factor from that, but I need to hit that inside rut on that corner. But, yeah, not a terrible track. Holy God, Vicky Golden doing a damn stoppie up the freaking jump face. Freaking Axel Hodges. Holy crap. Look at this rut. They're all hitting, like, the exact same line. That's cracking me up. I don't even know how they're doing that. Like, it's not that hard to go out of that rut, too. Like, you just got to move over, like, 1 inch, and you're not even going to be in it. So that's kind of funny. But it's got this whole very, very memorable, you know, first turn area here. I think I liked that other layout better of, like, whatever that latest one they did on MX Simulator, that 3D scanned one, where it kind of went straight after the start. I feel like that just flowed better than this layout. I don't know. This layout seems a little bizarre to me, but yeah, so definitely cool little track design here. I don't know how much these ruts are really going to develop where you can actually dig into them on the inside of some of those flat corners. I don't know how much that's really going to be worth trying to, you know, cut up the inside or whatever, but funny how these ruts are like a interesting little mixture of it'll grab your ass, but like I can't hardly even almost get into that rut. It's so lasered down in that one spot. But it's funny how these ruts they have a little bit of a softness to them, but they don't really seem to move quite as much as like some of the reflex ruts, especially not as much as some of the reflex sand track ruts. So it's interesting. It's just a different kind of terrain deformation, really, than any other motocross game we've had. I wouldn't say it's as good as reflex, but it's not as bad as some other terrain deformations, though. It's like kind of somewhere in the middle there. You can kind of sort of get in those ruts. But yeah, this is a good example of like not having very big pre-made ruts, and you get a whole different kind of track design out of it. Cool little skill gappy quad. Can you double? No, ain't no way in hell you could double that up over that jump face right there, but either way, that's some Debbie Ranch action. Little Florida vibe. Definitely gives you the feeling like you're in Florida for sure. I know there's a couple different like time of day effects you can get on this puppy, but pretty solid right here, Doug. I like that little, I like that kind of big, like just humongous single style obstacle that they have on some motocross tracks. You don't see them very often, but it is pretty cool when you see them, where you can just scrub the absolute shit out of them, right? Just them big ass, almost like elevation, but it's on a flat surface, you know? It's just like one giant hill, one giant single. I really like that kind of vibe on some of these tracks, so you could definitely snake your way through here a little bit, cut off some serious time. Either way, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.